Thank you for joining us this evening. Um, the last couple of days, we have been talking about quite a number of things. In particular, yesterday we spoke in reference to Jacob becoming Israel and what that meant, not just at that moment, but also what does it mean within the confines of our lives? What does it mean? What does it mean to humanity during this current era? And in discussing it, of course, we delve deeply into how this was internal battle, and the results of this battle being that Jacob found himself in this search for himself. And the whole idea of angels descending us, and they were actually the thoughts of Jacob and wrestling with the spiritual essence of what he was receiving, what he was hearing. And the changing of his name not suggested, but meant that his character was changed, his journey to understand, to embrace truth had started. And, and just like Jacob, we also have wrestling to do within ourselves, even as we embark on the journey. So if there are any questions or comments in regards to what we spoke of yesterday, please raise them. If there are any questions or comments in regards to anything that has introduced.
Sage, you went mute for a moment.
Any questions? Are there any questions about anything? Okay.
What are your thoughts between wisdom and knowledge?
Wisdom is actually the mind of or the thoughts of our Creator. Knowledge is comes after we understand the wisdom. When we understand the wisdom, we begin to experience what we are understanding. So, in that regard, wisdom, understanding, and knowledge are pretty much inseparable, because without either one of those, especially the knowledge and the understanding, wisdom remains in a darkened state to us. We are unable to see what it means until we get understanding from the universe or from someone who has been shown what the wisdom means. Does that help you?
And you saying to someone has been shown, meaning, in other words, like you being our teacher?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Anyone else? Thank you. Okay, there are no questions then.
Pastor,
Yes.
Pastor.
Uh-huh.
Hi, this is Kathy. I have a question about something entirely different.
Okay.
I know that tonight or the wee hours of the morning, we're going to have a lunar eclipse. I think it's like between 4 o'clock and 6:30 a.m. And I also know that tomorrow is election day. Do you think it's a coincidence that this is happening? Does it have anything to do with what's going on? Not just with the atmosphere. Well, yeah, with the atmosphere itself. Do you think there's a tie-in there between those two events?
I do. And I think that the tie-in between these events was set in motion at the beginning of everything that is. The moon is feminine. And the moon at this point is emitting more energy and stronger energy than at any other time. The energy forces of the moon right now are greater than we have experienced in quite some time. So I do believe that the energy of femininity is not only influencing what's coming up tomorrow, because the moon, the energy will be received tomorrow or be available tomorrow. But I also believe that it has a lot to do with everything that's going on in regards to humanity. Keep in mind that we, without even knowing or thinking about this moon was going to be where it is at this moment, have been talking about the feminine energy is going to reveal itself regardless of what it takes to do it. And our speaking of feminine energy in the way it should have been approached from the beginning is an encouragement for femininity to present itself. It is an invitation for femininity to present itself as it has never done before. And I do think that it is going to have a rippling effect, not only on tomorrow, but in the days to come as well. I received something today from Rainier, and it was in regards to the word homosexuality being placed in the Bible in 1946. I have not completed reading it yet because I just looked at it a little while ago. However, there is a documentary about it, and there has already been a book written against it, even though they don't know the facts of the documentary. So I believe that all of this is coinciding with the balance that we are bringing into bringing into being in the earth. And the reason I say that is because that itself is speaking to a mistranslation that also became a damnable thing towards feminine energy. And now, with the moon where it is, with this being brought to our attention, I do believe that you need to buckle up, because we are getting ready to take a ride on this journey that's going to bring about revelations and changes so quickly until we are not going to be able to hold it in our minds. We're going to have to receive it in our souls in order to contain it. And I certainly hope that helps, Kathy.
Yes, it makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Anyone else?
Hey, Rep, backing on the same, Kathy had said that the way the moon's gonna be so close or whatever, that automatic opened up a doorway for the spiritual. It's hard to put in words. If someone is highly understandable to that, so that doorway is acceptable to that person to go through and come back out with revelation knowledge of the Father or what's going on too, right?
Okay, let me help you, Charlie. I know what you're saying. It is, the energy is coming through a gateway. We don't have to go into a portal. It comes to us. And those who are open to reading the signs of the time, those who are open to knowing what the truth is without regard to what they have believed in the past will receive an understanding not only about what's happening, but they will also be able to witness the manifestation of the change that comes as a result of it. And that is why I say to you so often, stop playing both sides against the middle. You cannot be spiritual and religious too. You have to choose whether or not you're going to be religious or spiritual, because being religious forces you to hold on to something that's not true, and it actually closes your mind to a great degree as to what is true. Spirituality in its fullest is always revealing something to us. The question is, are we looking, or are we listening, or are we seeking to experience it? Is that along the lines what you were talking about, Charles?
Yes, that's what I was talking about.
Okay, thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Do you think that if we, what time Kathy say it's supposed to happen?
In the early hours of the morning, before sun up.
Do you think if we went into meditation that we would enter into another portal?
I think that if you go into meditation, you will absorb that energy that is available. It's available right now, but it's going to be at its greatest point of availability at daybreak or just before daybreak in the morning.
Yes, I think they said between like 4:30 to like 6 to 6:30.
Yeah. Thank you, ma'am. So if you desire to position yourself to be open, I suggest that you set an alarm and do that. If your commitment is there, if that's what you desire. Okay?
Oh,
Now,
okay.
it is possible for us to live in a meditative state. And with revelation coming to us, with us being able to discern what's happening and what's going to happen. I would not suggest that you assume that that's where you are, simply because that's where you want to be. If you are at that place along this journey, you will know it without having to ask any questions about how will you know it. So my suggestion is, if you truly want to absorb this energy or to receive from it, go into a meditative state, as Catherine with the C suggested, and Catherine with the K gave us the time of the event. Any other questions? Any comments about that? No questions, no comments? Okay. Let me see if there are any lingering things about Jacob that we did not touch on yesterday. Give me a second to look at that. Excuse me. I don't really see anything beyond what we talked about yesterday, that because I said at the onset that I was not intending to go in depth in understanding the angels who are ascending and descending. As a matter of fact, I had spoken with Ron about it. He called me because he saw something there, and we talked about it for a few minutes. And if I think what I'm going to do is probably mention some of the things that I saw there as well, or that we saw there as well. So that may give you a deeper understanding of the metaphor, or the nature rather, of this allegory called the Bible. When Jacob saw the ascending and descending of the angels, this speaks volumes to us, because not only did he speak of them ascending and descending, he also spoke of a ladder. Now, my question would be this: what do you think that means, the ascending and descending of a ladder? I'm sorry, the ascending and descending of the messengers on a ladder.
You
I
say
know
mess-
you know something about this, but, huh?
say
Go ahead.
messaging on the ladder. Repeat that question again.
Why? What does the ladder mean is the basic question. Understanding that we are not talking about men, neither are we talking about angels with wings and stuff like they say they are. We are talking about an internal message that Jacob is wrestling with, and the ascension of his thoughts in regards to the descension of what he's seeing, understanding what he's been presented with. Why do they use the metaphor of a ladder? That's the question.
Hey, Rep, Pastor, I'm gonna take a stab at it.
Okay,
Does
do
it mean that his conscious self was descending and going up and coming down?
It does mean that. However, why the ladder? What does the ladder represent?
Climbing?
What does the ladder represent?
This is Vermel. I think it represents growth in his thoughts, in the thoughts that he was having with
Okay.
our creator. That's what I think.
Okay, hold on to that. Anyone else? Come on, let's have this discussion. What do you think?
What about his thoughts? His thoughts.
What does the ladder represent? The thoughts, the ascendant and descendant are the thoughts. But why did they need a ladder?
It could represent the higher self and the lower self, because with a ladder touches base on the earth or consciousness at that level, and it ascends beyond towards the heavens. And so it could mean that there is a connection between the higher self or lower thoughts as well as higher thoughts.
Okay.
Okay.
Right. Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else?
I think a ladder as opposed to a staircase, it doesn't take a whole lot of effort to go up a staircase, although it takes some. But a ladder, you have to make a lot more effort to go up the ladder.
Bingo.
Okay.
It's struggle. The ladder speaks to, you have to, as Audrey said, you have to make an effort. He was making every effort to understand who he was. And That is the reason he said, I'm not going to turn you loose, because he was seeing clearer, getting the clarity as to who he is. And climbing up the ladder and down the ladder means that you cannot actually understand the spiritual essence of who you are without having input or influence from the universe or from the creator. And in both cases, you have to put forth the effort to seek, that's ascended. And you have to put forth the effort to receive, that's descended. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Repeat that one more time.
Okay, you have to put forth an effort to ascend. That means that if you are going to travel this journey to seek the understanding of who you are, you're going to have to put forth a focused effort. The descending says that when you receive, you also have to put forth a focused effort. Both requires struggle. Both requires input. It will not come to you without you putting forth the effort to receive it and putting forth the effort to seek it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Someone else was about to speak? Three, 5, 3. Anyone else? Any other questions? Vermeil, go ahead. Go ahead.
What would be the difference between the ladder and steps, climbing steps?
Okay, as I already said, it's much easier to climb steps than it is to climb a ladder. It doesn't take much effort to climb steps, but it does take effort and focus to climb a ladder, because if you're not focused, you'll fall. Make sense?
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else? Vermeil, Charles, and Barbara. Can you see what we're talking about in terms of that ladder?
Yes.
Charlie?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, I see. Because
Okay.
it takes a lot of focus to climb that ladder, and you have to have that same focus coming back down too.
That's right. Matter of fact, it's more focused. So this whole encounter that Jacob had was an encounter that all of us have and have not been recognizing it. This is kind of sort of equal to or like the experience that Jesus had when we talked about him being in the mountain, and him being there represents the struggle that you have in order to embrace the truth. It's a real struggle to embrace the truth. Why is it a struggle to embrace the truth? The reason it is a struggle to embrace the truth is because we have been buried with the understanding that is not true. The ones who taught us were not lying when they taught us. They were not telling lies when they taught us. They were telling us the truth that they saw, the truth that they had been taught, and they were sincere about what they taught us. And what they taught us actually prepared us for where we are right now. Because without that teaching, we would not have been able to pass from this material understanding into a spiritual understanding. All spirituality, the understanding of spirituality rather, all begins in the material world. It begins with a question. What does all this mean? And it leads to you questioning yourself. The difficulty with the answers that you receive is that you do not want to disconnect from the thing that you have known all of your life. You do not want to disconnect from a doctrine that is not authenticated by the scriptures, but a doctrine that is preserved by denominationalism. And it is difficult to do that. It is the same method that's used with the elephant who you chain to a peg and eventually put a string around his leg, and he will not break that string because he's been conditioned when he feels that tug to stop. We have been conditioned. If you hear anything outside of what you've been told, it cannot be true. And that's what struck me so deeply when I looked at the article that Rainier had sent. How people are, Christians are writing books about how wrong they are, and they have not even seen the evidence that they have. That is no different than those who deny what we are teaching without even giving opportunity to explain the source of the teaching. Open their mind enough to see where we are coming from, where it came from, and how we got to the place where we are in terms of our understanding of it. Right now, if I were to walk into any denominational church and say that water baptism is ineffective, water baptism is not required, and the reason it is not required is because John told us that it was not required. What is required is the baptism of the Holy Ghost, because John said that one is coming whose shoes are not worthy to unlatch. He will not baptize you with water. He will baptize you with the Holy Spirit. If that is not ending water baptism and moving us into a dependency on understanding what Jesus taught so we can understand the spiritual nature of what's in the scripture, but more importantly, the spiritual essence of our being. Does that make sense? Any questions or comments? If I did that in any church, they would put me out. They would send me home where they've done it before. So that's fact. Any question, comment? Comment? No question?
I think it's interesting that we've read that how many times in our lives?
Right.
But we never thought about it as we don't need water baptism. We always saw what John did, not what he said.
Right.
Wow.
And that's it. Why did we not hear what John said? Because we were taught to see what John did. And water baptism puts us in an exclusive club. You are a member of this club called Great New Faith, Foundation Faith, St. Paul, whatever. You're a member of this club. That's what water baptism does with us. It does not change anything. it does not give us the opportunity to change. Why? Because in order to change, in order to stop traveling in circles, searching for whatever, we have to have spiritual guidance. And the spiritual baptism is simply talking about an immersion in the spiritual understandings of the scriptures, understanding spiritually what Jesus was teaching. Very few, go ahead, dear.
I have a question.
Mhm.
So how do you counter those people who say, well, Jesus got baptized, so I'm gonna do it too?
Jesus got baptized because Jesus was fulfilling the rabbinic law. He had to submit to mikvah in order for him to be in line with the rabbinic law, which means that he had a right to teach the scriptures. Jesus said, I came to rightly teach the scriptures.
Divide,
Say it again.
to rightly divide the
The
word.
scriptures.
Yeah.
So Jesus came, he did not come to defy the scriptures. He came so we could understand them in the way that we are supposed to. In order for him to do that, he had to go through the baptism that he went through, or through the actual mikvah that he went through. And when he went through that mikvah, you hear, with Jesus, what do you hear? You hear someone say, and a voice say, this is my son in whom I'm well pleased. All that means is that Jesus has fulfilled the prerequisite for being who he is. Up until the time of Jesus, we were judged by the law. And when we were rightly taught what the law is, when we were rightly taught that we are Elohim, when we were rightly taught those things, then the necessity of water was no longer needed. The necessity of spiritual baptism was. You can immerse in water all day long and nothing changes. However, those of you who have traveled this journey for as long as you have been traveling it, if you have not seen a change in your life since you committed yourself to this journey to find truth, to understand spirituality, if you have not seen a change in your life, then you probably should not call in anymore. Because either you don't want it, or it's something that you are really not interested in because it's taking something away from you when it really isn't. It's giving you everything that you need in order for you to be who you are. I guarantee you, if you be true to yourself, the way you deal with anger, the way you deal with circumstances now are totally different than how you dealt with them prior to you embarking on this journey. Am I right? Somebody needs to say amen.
Right.
Amen.
Amen.
Okay.
Hello, this is Mary, and you know what? I thought about that because, yes, this journey has had me to look at my life differently, even though, you know, the church is in me. Well, it was rooted in the scriptures, thank God. I still remember, but I think about when John didn't want to baptize Jesus, so he understood what Jesus' appointment was. But Jesus, as he said, he came not to destroy the law, but to fulfill it. So we look at it, and even though I read it, and we all read this part of the Bible so many times, it's like even though he didn't want to do it, Jesus said, I got to do it. But it's more to it, and I'm thankful that y'all bringing that out tonight because it makes sense to me. It resonates. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, he did not come to destroy the law, but he came to rightly interpret the law. That's the literal translation of that. So when you said that, Mary, that's what triggered it. You came to rightly interpret the law. And he was not
Yes.
talking about the Levitical law.
Correct, because that's the one that got us kind of off centered anyway. So you're right.
That's the one that got us hating everybody and feeling that males are inferior to females. Any other questions or comments?
Pastor,
This is-
the other one you had said, it took me back to Abraham and his father. His father had took him so far, he didn't want to go no further. And Abraham, in his mindset, he was knowing it was more to,
Right.
to than where my father, where his father had brought him to. It was
Right.
more to it. And
I'm sorry, Charles, go ahead.
go ahead. I'm finished.
You're right. Abraham's daddy left with him. And when his daddy got to this village, I don't remember the name of it, he chose to stay there. And Abraham continued the journey. But his daddy really was the one who's supposed to be traveling that journey. That's another story that really speaks volumes to our understanding of what this journey entails and how if you don't do it, there is somebody else who will. How many of you have asked yourself this question, at least early on? Why me? What makes me think that I can reach the whole world? You walk into the mall and you drive down the highway and you see all of those people. And you think about that, all of these people on this highway. What made me think I can reach them? Is that arrogance? Is bringing you to reality? Have you ever thought that before? Have that question ever come to you? Okay, it did to me. Maybe just me. It changed
Pastor, this
stuff.
is Beverly. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Well, you just asked that question. Do we ever think about it? But I done been around you a long time. And when you speak with authority. You're bold when you say things. And I've picked up or become one with it's not arrogant, it's just that you're confident in what you're saying. And that's where I am in my life. I'm not afraid to ask anybody any questions. And it's because of what I'm going through with you on this journey. So why me is no longer part of my vocabulary. I just know that I have a purpose and I'm part of a family that supports me and I have nothing to worry about. That's just my comment about that.
Thank you. Anyone else? Now, with that mindset, nothing should beset us for a long period of time. If there is anything that troubles you, any circumstance that you feel like you can't change, or if there's anything about humanity, you ask yourself, why me? I'm just one person. Then you need to talk to someone else to help you see who you are or remind you of who you are, because we are our brother's keeper. And in being our brother's keeper, all of us at some points in our lives need to be reminded. And we get to a place where we need to be reminded less and less And we eventually get to a place where we are able to remind ourselves and others as opposed to having to call somebody to remind us. However, it does not mean that you are to lie to yourself and say, I'm at this place, I don't need to talk to nobody about this, I got this, when you know you don't. Because I'm gonna tell you straight up, I will call someone in a heartbeat and say, I just need to talk. Why do I do that? Because there are times, there are circumstances in my life that I know I am incapable of handling alone. And I do know that the church can't help me. It's the people who are on this journey who are able to help me move beyond that place. When Phoebe got sick, I had to reconcile with that within before I could talk to anyone about it. And believe you me, some of you got phone calls and you know it from me. Because I knew that I needed support and strength to move beyond where I was at that moment. Why am I sharing this with you? I don't want you ever to think that you are strong enough to walk this journey without any assistance from anyone. That you're strong enough to overcome any circumstance without having to contact someone or to interact with someone in order to receive the reminder, the strength, the light that's necessary to move beyond the point where you are at that moment. Does that make sense to you guys?
But did I give you that impression?
No, no, no. I'm just talking in general. I'm not talking
Someone
about
said
you.
yes?
I say I'm not talking about you in general. I'm talking about, you particular rather. I'm talking about all of us.
Oh, yes.
All of us. None of us have arrived. That's
Right.
what I'm saying.
But I don't want anyone to get I said, right, I said, I no longer ask why me.
No. I wasn't talking to you specifically, Evan.
Okay.
There are people on this phone who may think, or people around them who may think that I can't let Remington know that I'm not getting this, or that I need some help with this. I can do this by myself. No, you can't. No, you can't.
Yeah, I got that part.
Okay. Anyone else? Jacob is a true representative for what I just said. Jacob was in a hard place. Jacob laid his head on a rock and slept. Jacob was in a hard place, but he was able to sleep because he was in touch with his soul and was no longer traveling based upon his mind, the thoughts in his mind. However, his desire to know who he is started in his mind, and his soul took over because of his sincerity and guided him with the questioning that was inside of him so he could get to where he needed to be. That's what we do every week. That's what we do every day. We open up every single day so that humanity can hear from the heavens. Why? Because the heavens are not shut up, they're not closed. Enlightenment is not being held at bay anymore. Enlightenment is flowing like the rivers of water. Tomorrow is one of the most pivotal days in the earth, not in America, in the entire earth. Because whatever happens in this nation affects everyone in the earth. The entire House of Representatives is up for election tomorrow. Our dependency is not on the Democrats or the elections. They are a manifestation, they are a conduit through which we work in order to bring balance. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Hello?
Yes, it
Yeah.
does.
We are that conduit. So what I have done, I very, very rarely have listened at any of the news since we got this close to the election. I'm tired of it. It doesn't matter to me what they say. What matters to me is what I know. And that's what you should be also. Anyway, any other questions about Jacob or anything else?
This is Vermel. I have a question about Jacob's wife and what role did she play in his growth and her questions to him.
Balance. Balance. Every male or all masculine energy has to have a balance of feminine energy. Look at the role that Sarah played in Abraham's life.
Mhm.
His balance. She guided him. She told him what to do. You won't hear that preached in church, but she did. She told him to take Hagar as a wife. She told him to send Hagar and that boy away because he was agitating her child. And when she died, it says that the light left her tent, which means that without feminine energy, there's no light. And that is one of the reasons those who abuse feminine energy in favor of masculinity have no sense of purpose or conscience. And they feel like whatever they do can be justified because of their superiority. That's why we have double standards. Men can do things and walk away from it, women can't. That's why we have men who carry women to have abortions, fight abortion. Because they're selfish. They take someone to have an abortion because they don't want the responsibility or they don't want the public to know what they did. That's control. And here we are at this pivotal point. Everything is on the table, y'all. Economy, housing, medical care, homosexuality, or the LGBT community. Everything is on the ballot tomorrow. And I'm not talking about literally. I'm talking about spiritually. Are you uneasy? And I want you to go down the line asking you that. Are you uneasy? Come on. You know whether you're uneasy about tomorrow or not?
Yes,
Somewhat.
I am.
Okay.
Somewhat. Yes.
Yes, I
You-
am.
I
Okay.
am, I already said.
Okay. Okay. Anyone else? may I ask you to meditate this evening, focus, and stay away from anything on the news? Why? Because we need the focused energy of all of us in order for the universe to do its job. Because if the universe does not have a conduit to work through, then it doesn't happen. Now, am I saying it's not going to happen? No, but I am saying we need everybody on board. Does that make sense, guys?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
We
Yes,
need-
sir.
We
Yes.
need everybody. Thank you. Thank you. We need everybody on board. In December of 2011, during the winter solstice, we met and made a decision that the Mayan calendar would end in 2012. And if there was no one seeking the truth, humanity would come to an end all over again, just like it did in the past. We made a commitment, say right in this room, that it will not happen on our watch. We are now at the end of that line. You remember the line that was drawn by the Mayans, and then it had the crooked line where it falls off or keeps straight, and where humanity continues? That's where we are right now. We are at that place that we committed ourselves we will not allow to happen on our watch. I'm saying to you, it is time for us to stand strong based upon what we know the truth to be, have absolutely no concerns about tomorrow, but know whose we are and know what our journey is. That is to bring balance to humanity. Someone was about to speak. Go ahead. Hello? Were you about to say something? All right. Any questions about that? I want to leave you with this if there are no questions or comments.
So are we doing the meditation in tandem?
That's a great question. Every time that we meditate in tandem, we see tremendous results. So yes, let's do that. Tonight, at 1 minute after 12, let's meditate. I beg your pardon? At 1 minute after 12, let's meditate. I'm not telling you to meditate for 5 minutes. I'm not saying meditate for 10 minutes. Meditate until you are pulled out of it by the universe. And what is the focal point? Whatever it takes to bring balance to humanity. Does that make sense to you guys?
Yes.
Audrey, is that where your thoughts were?
Yeah.
Okay. Are we agreed on that? As many as will meditate
Yes.
at 1 minute after 12 tonight for this specific purpose. Questions or comments? No questions, no comments. We must be true to our commitment because the world depends on it. Thank you. I trust you have a good night. And my desire is that the energy of the moon reveals to you the power that you are and the journey that's ahead of us. Have a good evening, and thank you for your presence.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.